Yes, good morning. My name is Chris Bain. I am the NEC member for the West Midlands, and I'm really pleased and privileged this morning to be able to introduce Liam Byrne and the work of the West Midlands Task Force. I'm particularly pleased because of the impact on the West Midlands of issues such as COVID and Brexit and climate change will be significant. And I think traditional policy and practice responses will not be enough to deal with that. And I'm also pleased because it is Liam Byrne, and I have known Liam for a very long time. Liam and I were in fact co-facilitators in the Partnership in Power process, if you remember, back in the late 90s. And I knew then that Liam would go on to do some really good stuff. And Liam has now, for a long time now, been a standard bearer for all that is best in our movement. So without further ado, I will introduce the next West Midlands Metro Mayor and my friend, Liam Byrne.
Chris, thank you so much for that overly generous introduction. We have indeed been debating many of the ideas that best define our movement for a long time, you and I. So today's a very sweet moment. So I'm here today to launch the report of our West Midlands Co-op Task Force. And so I just want to start by saying an enormous thank you for inviting me along to speak about it today. And I want to say a massive thank you to the Co-op Party for helping make this happen. It's a really important piece of work for us. And I want to say a huge thank you to all my fellow co-chairs and the members of the task force who have done all the hard work. They've brought together their extraordinary experience, their knowledge, their insights. So to Preet Gill, Olivia Birch, Tony Kennedy, Joe White, Nick Matthews, Richard Bickle, Faye Abbott, Karen McCarthy, Colin Wilkes, and Emma, you and your team at the Co-op Party, just a massive thank you. Big thanks too to co-op members from around the movement who have put in some brilliant ideas, and we have ruthlessly exploited that intellectual capital that you've been able to provide us with. So, you know, we together have made this happen, and that's what co-ops are all about. We have a stake, they're us. So this morning, all I want to do is say three things really about urgency, about our inspirations, and about the agenda that emerges from this report. But let me start with a word about urgency, because along with this report that we launched today, I am tomorrow launching a book, which hopefully you'll just be able to see, called Just Transitions. And this is a book that we're doing for the Global Parliamentary Network on the World Bank and the IMF. And it starts with a really stark warning, which is that after 1 million people dead worldwide, we now risk 100 million more falling into poverty. So we've had a pandemic of disease, and now we've got a pandemic of poverty that may lie ahead. And the truth is that we are not immune from that pandemic here in our region. So really the agenda that is at the heart of this work is a plea that from the agony of our loss, after all of the sacrifices that we've been through together over the last year, surely we can't have a situation where people now look forward to an autumn of anxiety and a long, long winter of want. In our region here in the West Midlands, we have 1.3 million people who are already on furlough or the self-employed scheme, or they're unemployed already. And if the Bank of England is right, and you never know, they might be, by next year, we will see unemployment double in our region. These are our neighbours, and we have got a responsibility to them, not just to offer tea and empathy and warm words. We've got a responsibility to do something about their plight. And that is why this is such an important time for co-ops and for our movement. And that's why the time to act is now. So the second point really I wanted to make is about the inspiration that we've drawn from everybody involved in today. So we've looked at national examples. So if you take energy co-ops, they're delivering 12 to 13 times the community benefit of commercial installations. Or if you look at the co-ops providing good jobs or supporting community links or helping money stay in local areas, extraordinary progress is being made. All the co-ops from schools to social care, from business to energy, from transport to sports clubs, financial institutions to housing, co-ops are changing the way that we create wealth and share wealth around the country. Now, we've got lots of good examples in our own region to draw from. So if you take the Coventry Social Supermarket, or the Birmingham Community-Led Growing Project, or CitySave, or Sandwell Council using its procurement power to put communities centre stage in the way that it takes decisions, or Wolverhampton providing land rent-free for community groups and community centres, or the Wolverhampton Housing Project that provides young people with work, refurbishing homes. We've got lots and lots of good examples from around the country and from around our region, but our challenge that this report addresses is how do we dramatically scale up all of that work over the year to come. So what we've tried to do is, inspired by the urgency, inspired by the ideas that we've drawn from across the country and across the region, we've tried to set out what the agenda could look like for the next Metro Mayor of the West Midlands, which I hope, with your help, will be me. So we think that we can treble co-ops in the West Midlands. We start with a small base, but we think we can treble co-ops in our region. We think we can do that across council areas. We think we can do that across neighbourhoods and across communities. And in so doing, we think that we can set an important example to the rest of the country, because we're the second biggest mayoral area outside London. So well over 2 million people live within the borders of the West Midlands metro area. So frankly, if you can make these ideas work on the scale of the West Midlands, then frankly, you can make them work on the scale of the country. The bedrock of the report we're launching philosophically is the notion of community wealth building. Businesses and organisations like councils or universities, police, hospitals, they spend billions of pounds buying services. And we think this procurement spend could genuinely support new cooperative businesses, creating local jobs, making sure that money is actually kept in the economy here locally. Now, obviously, we've drawn tremendous inspiration from Preston Council. They pioneered this model in many ways. But we think that at the scale of the West Midlands, there's gigantic potential for this community wealth building approach. And we think that the role of the Mayor and the West Midlands Combined Authority can make a huge impact on that. So we developed this philosophy by proposing community and co-op innovation districts. And, you know, like many communities around the country right now, we have good people who want to do things in particular places, but it just seems incredibly hard to make change happen. At the core of many of these districts are public and community buildings that are shuttered. I've got them all over my constituency. I've seen them all over our region. And very often these buildings, these institutions are part of the soul of a community. They're part of the fabric of our lives together. And so when people see them shuttered, actually the emotional impact that that has on confidence and people's ambitions is actually really important. So what we want to do is to pioneer this idea of community and co-op innovation districts, reopening some of these buildings as neighbourhood hubs or co-op spaces, and around them just beginning to explore the way in which we strengthen co-op local services, strengthen community links, and recharging local high streets and neighbourhoods. Now, at the core of this work has got to be food, because ultimately the most important moral obligation on us is to make sure that we're a region of zero hunger. As many of you know, I mean, I've spent a lot of the last 3 or 4 years working in community food banks, and I've done that across our region. I've seen the most extraordinary work that we have got at hand. We now need to turn that energy into a community-led food revolution. And so we were very blessed that the London Food Board spent some time with us on our task force. We've seen the way that they've taken things forward. And what we'd like to do is set up a West Midlands Food Board with the same kind of drive to tackle food waste, overcome food poverty, improve nutrition and the overall food system. And so alongside creating new food justice partnerships, we think that we can build on a lot of the good work that we've seen during COVID-19, bringing communities together with new institutions and businesses that can really deliver that goal of zero hunger. And then the third big idea is around energy. So we know that cleaner, greener energy is absolutely critical now. We've got no choice. There's lots of good examples of energy co-ops around the country. They're generating clean energy and they're creating wealth in communities. So Bristol Energy's success, they've seen energy efficiency measures put in for community buildings and for homes, and we'd like to do that in the West Midlands. So alongside some of the ideas from Bristol, we'd like to look at how we can deploy solar for schools. We'd like to use the combined authority to create real economies of scale. We want to establish a retrofit co-op to help employ local people, improving homes, lifting people out of energy poverty and tackling carbon emissions all at the same time. And for us, that's a really important part of our goal to be Britain's capital of green manufacturing. So, Chris, in conclusion, I'd say this: if there's been a silver lining from COVID, it's been the way that we've seen the instinct for neighbours to work together. And I think truly these times have really demonstrated that our freedom, especially freedom from want, freedom from fear, freedom to flourish, it all depends on our capacity to cooperate. Cooperation is, as it always has been, the midwife of liberty. So there's lots of ideas in this report. We are incredibly grateful to everyone who shared their wisdom and experience. We want to keep learning from you, which is why today I'm announcing that we as a team will be the newest member of the Co-op Council's Innovation Network, so that we can keep tapping in to those ideas. We know that co-ops can help us renew community bonds and spirit. We know we can do that in a way that keeps the pounds that we spend local. And through these kind of ideas, we think we can genuinely build a different kind of region for the people that we came into politics and public life to serve. So, Chris, thanks so much for giving us the chance to speak today. Let me hand the floor back to you.
Thanks so much, Liam. I took so much inspiration from that, and I'm delighted you joined CCIN. The instinct of people in the face of the national crisis was to join together. So I think your report has come at exactly the right time in our social evolution. And you are, I think, precisely the right person to lead it, Liam. So the best of luck next May, and I look forward to you being the Metro Mayor for the West Midlands.
Thanks so much, Chris.